Thank you for staying with Daybreak. The conversation begins right now. We're calling it the future after Raila. What are the lessons for the young people? How do they intend to take over the legacy from here? What will they do to honor the legacy of the man who's been referred to as an enigma and a statesman? My guests are with me already here, starting from the upper deck. Otieno Mokai is an advocate of the High Court on the farthest right over there. Next is Honorable Obed Mwale. He's an MCA for Matisi Ward, the Deputy Speaker, Trans Nzoia County. Thank you very much for making time. We have Bruce Ogweno, a youth governance expert. Asante sana for making time. And then we have Mark Ouko, Youth Affairs Coordinator at the National Students Council of Kenya. Thank you for making time. And Mgeni Mboto Hassan, Communication Strategist. Thank you very much for making time. We're still waiting for Mudoni Mburu, a lawyer. As soon as she comes in, we'll drop her into the discussion. But we'll start off now. And Mokai, I'll start with you on this. What are some of the lessons we learned from Raila Odinga's life and times, from your perspective as a young person?
One of the lessons you learn, there are many lessons to learn from Raila Odinga, but one of the lessons you learn from Raila Odinga is how to lead a nation even when you don't have responsibility. How to stick to principles even when they harm you, how to create relevance for more than 30 years and yet being the face of the change that you believe in. Raila Odinga to me was not just a presidential aspirant, was not just the leader of ODM. Raila was Baba, and Baba means father. By father it means the ability to lead the way even when you are not popular, the ability to nurture even when it hurts you, the ability to carry the nation with you, even when it doesn't benefit you. I've said elsewhere that Baba had the ability or the tenacity to sabotage himself for country. Many a times has he taken a hit for something that could have benefited him. Start with the 1992 coup. He was blamed for it somehow. It led to his 10-year incarceration without trial. Go to 1997. He shelved his ambition to support Moi. Seems like a selfish move, but that was needed for unity of country. In 2007, it is touted, and it's true that he won the election. If he wanted, he could have sticked to it and said that I must be sworn in. But he sat and said, look, this country is bigger than me. And he did it the way he used. Things he did were not for himself, but for posterity and for the future of this country. He said no to the first Kilifi draft of the Constitution because he believed it was not the right constitution. Then he came and fashioned himself into the 2010 constitution, and here we are. In 2013, he won a petition to challenge the election, which led to an order that the election be done again. Then he realizes with the same referee, I'm not doing myself justice, I'm not doing my people justice. Then he steps out. Who among our people or our leaders that are now here can tower that high and do things that people think they are selfish? In the 2024 June Maandamano, everybody was saying, please God, Raila should not join. If he was a selfish politician, he could have joined the Maandamano and made it bigger and even more dangerous. What does he do? Walks to his competitor and chooses to sabotage himself once again for country. So I see a colossus. I see someone who we should emulate, and I dare say it will take a lifetime to find another Raila Odinga.
Okay. We'll talk about that Maandamano in just a bit, because there's a thin line between sacrifice and sabotage. So we'll talk about that in the perspective from the young people in a short while. But let me bring in Honorable Mwale on this. How do you remember Raila Odinga?
Thank you. I think as a young leader in this republic, I remember Raila Odinga for the leader that he is, a great statesman indeed. And I can summarize his entire life into one sentence, that as leaders in this country, if we don't sacrifice for the country that we love, then eventually the country that we love might become a sacrifice. Raila Odinga in his entire lifetime has proven that he has been a patriotic citizen. He has sacrificed most of his time, most of his efforts towards defending democracy and also fighting for the common good of the people in this country. Just as my brother here has said, that when we needed multi-party democracy, Raila Odinga was there to fight for the Kenyans. When we needed a new constitution, that is in 2010, Raila Odinga was there to speak on behalf of the Kenyans. When we needed electoral reforms and justice in the election systems in this country, the same Raila Odinga was there to speak for us and also to advocate for a better country. So as a young leader in this country, then my biggest interest is only to replace Raila Odinga, but then to think about how better as an individual can we be from learning through the experiences of Raila Amolo Odinga. So even in his death, Raila Odinga still stands as a great influencer and also an icon in the lives of the Kenyan people.
Okay, let me bring in Bruce on this. Bruce, how do you remember Raila?
Thank you very much, Trevor. First and foremost, let me send my condolences. It's still fresh to us as a community and as a country. And some of us, we have not accepted that reality that is gone. But I remember him, when I hear the name Raila Amolo Odinga, I see the democratic space. I see a democratic man, a man who gave it all to create a space that on the last moment, that space turned against him. The reality is that having sacrificed all to ensure that a young Bruce somewhere, a young Dedan somewhere got a voice, that voice last year when the country needed statement turned against him and criticized him harshly. It is very unfortunate that he didn't have time to reconcile with these young people, and he didn't have time to really get the young people know why he made such particular decisions. But to some of us who are really exposed to the political situations and the political environment in this country, we understand and we appreciate the decision he made. So we owe him a lot. And Trevor, I want to remind each and every Kenyan that Raila Odinga, the physical is gone, but his spirit is still with us. His vision and his dreams, his aspirations are still shaping and going to shape Kenyan politics.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that. Those the reconciliation you're talking about with the young people shortly as well. Mgeni on this. Mgeni, how do you remember Raila?
For me, I would like to remember Raila as a legacy because he was the foundation of what now we can call democracy, democratic multi-party. It was the foundation of why, as a young people, we can actually sit here and talk freely about so many other things. He was the foundation of why we're pushing ourselves or we want to take up this leadership position, but not based on you wanting to be a leader, but based on ideologies that he stood for. And for him, it was not about the title. So even right now, when we speak as young people, we need to remember it is not about the title. It is about the substance of wanting to become a leader. It's about what ideology are you bringing? What impact do you need to have so that people can actually call you a leader or for deserving to be that title? So for me, I would like to remember him as the father that planted the tree that we are actually sitting on that shade right now. We are at an advantageous position or an advantageous generation because of the legacy that he laid the foundation for. So it is important for us to understand that not only do we need to follow the footsteps that he was laid, it is important for us to understand the enigma behind, the substance behind every political handshake movement that he did, every political sacrifice that he did. It was meant, and he had only one principle that he always lived by. Kenyan comes first. The people comes first. And I believe if every one of us internalize that and envision that Kenya comes first, I believe there's so many things we will be able to fight. The 10-point agenda will be easy to implement. Corruption, all other things that is ingrained, because integrity for him came first. That is why he said, the people of Kenya come first.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here today. First of all, let me take this opportunity to send my message of comfort to Mama Ida and the entire family in this great mourning period. how I recall Raila Amolo Odinga is a man who had been integrated in two forms. There is Raila Amolo Odinga, the persona, and there is Raila Amolo Odinga, the institution himself. If you think about Raila Odinga, the persona, you think about the personal traits. In fact, the people who are mourning Raila as the persona are people who had a personal conviction with him, you know, the family, the friends, you know, close associates. And Raila as a person was a down-to-earth man. He is a man who could be having tea with, you know, President Emmanuel Macron in France, you know, he'll be in African Union discussing with the African presidents. The next minute he is in Kamkunji, you know, talking to members of Bunge la Wananchi. In fact, I was telling some people if Raila Amolo Odinga was alive today, he would be just laughing with Mutahi Kagwe and saying, you know, he has seen much worse than, you know, that. If you think about Raila Odinga as an institution, Raila Amolo Odinga, I think if I to reiterate what all my colleagues here have said, Raila Odinga was an individual who fought for the fundamental rights for nearly all the, you know, possible spaces you could think for. Even if you come here to the media space, the fundamental, you know, rights that revolve around freedom of speech. Raila Amolo Odinga is one of the people who aggressively fought around that, you know, go to the political space, you know, democratic space. So in my preamble thoughts about Raila Amolo Odinga, he's a man who integrated himself in two forms. The persona trait of Raila Amolo Odinga that, you know, was such a great character, and Raila that, you know, was a larger-than-life character, the institution himself.
Okay. Now joining us is Mudoni Mburu. She's a lawyer. Mudoni, how do you remember Raila Odinga?
Thank you very much, Trevor, for having me. It is indeed a sad day, week, okay, with the passing of the Right Honorable H.E. Raila Amolo Odinga. For me, I think during our generation, we just found him as Baba. That's the name that sticks whenever I want to talk about this great statesman. And what I remember about him, or just what I have as a memory, is his laughter. That man was a comedian. He was a hilarious person. He was one of those people who could get away with saying anything. I think because of him being an elder. So he could say things and we would feel like we would want to get inside our chairs and hide. I'd remember Baba as a great statesman, a champion for democracy, it has been said here before, an implementer of Article 10 of the Constitution, a great man, a humble, gentle giant, a person who would listen. He really took the literal interpretation of akwo, the Greek philosophy of listen. And I remember him as my mentor and friend, and I don't know, he really listened. And this is the kind of leadership that we want from our nation and our leadership, that they listen. I think it's because he felt that he would give speeches wherever he would go. So every other time he would form a small circle, he always wanted to listen. I think he wanted to understand the youth of this nation. What are they saying? What are the issues? So that by the next time he goes on that podium, he will crack a joke and we will all laugh at so many things that he said. He really resonated. I agree with the sentiments that have been said before. He resonated with from the weakest, from the lowest to indeed the highest. And there's so much that can be said, but it will not be sufficient to celebrate this enigma, this great person, this great statesman that we really thank God we were able to live through the life of Raila Amolo Odinga. Okay. And let me take this opportunity, because it cannot be said enough, to pass my sincere condolences to the nation, because indeed a great tree has fallen. To Mama Ida and the family, to my friend Junior, to Rosemary, to Ida, Winnie, and the entire staff that got to work with Raila Amolo Odinga, and indeed the entire nation. Okay. Let me reach there for now. Okay,
we'll talk about that. And you mentioned something interesting, that leaders should listen. And I'd like to know from you whether the leaders currently are listening to your issues. But let's bring in Mukaya again. Mukaya, this issue of sacrifice, you're the one who started it off, and you talked about the 2024 Maandamano. And there was a bit of a concern, even Bruce raised it, said that there needed to be some reconciliation with some young people. Just switch on your microphone there and then let us know where do you draw the line between sacrifice and sabotage? And was Raila given his flowers when he was alive, or is it different now?
I think as a people, I don't know whether to scale it down to us Kenyans or even Africans. There's a saying in Swahili that says, kufa usifiwe. People have good things to say about you, but the first qualification is that you have to die first. And we were very unkind to Raila when he was alive. We attended his rallies. All of us. Raila could appear somewhere and everything stops. But did we attend his polls as much? The first thing we do when government goes wrong is ask, where is Raila? But did we trust him with the power that we want? Or we thought his role as a donkey is to carry burdens, but we never thought he's good enough for Napier? Did we appreciate the role of Raila in the lives that we live today? Times were there when you could say people could not whisper about government. People could not imagine of the death of a president. People could not imagine of a presidential election. But Raila chose to make it the purpose of his life to give us that space. Right now, you can tweet against the president and still walk around. You can tweet against, you can say things that are not kind to government and still walk around. We don't walk around in fears that people will hear things about government and then our lives and then will disappear. Yes, those has happened, but there is that space that we enjoy, that sacrifices of people like Raila, not single-handedly, but is the biggest character in that fight. So we didn't give him his flowers. You talked about sabotage and sacrifice. We don't look at the 25th of June 2024 wholesomely. We are running with a single story that is popular. It is popular to be critical. It is popular to be in the opposition. But again, the president once said, which is a statement we chose to misinterpret, that if there is no Kenya for you, there is no Kenya for me. We were in parliament. We reached parliament. We were looking at going to State House. Did we ever think the end of the marches that we were doing? The Maandamano started as well. We were against the finance bill, which was punitive for everybody across the board. Ourselves, our parents, our children, the whole country. The march, the finance bill failed. What were we targeting next? Did we realize that our Maandamano had been infiltrated by political players? Did we see that we were losing the white color of our flag? Did we even think about the constitution that gave us the right to do that, whether we could have it 2 days more if we breached the State House? So, Raila Odinga, what seems like sabotage in the 2024 Maandamano was the saving grace that saved this country that we have today. Because once the flag stops flying, the bullet starts speaking.
Okay, but nobody saw it like that. In fact, I'm referring to this particular Maandamano because this is the one Maandamano that was led by the young people like yourselves. And when you came out, what we heard was that you felt you were sabotaged and not supported.
Nobody felt like that because we were crowd thinking. We were having that mob mentality, and it was getting into us. It was heroic to destroy things. It was heroic to rob shops. It sounded heroic to do things that otherwise could be illegal. Did we think about how many people lost jobs because of their shops were looted? Did we think about what next once Ruto goes unconstitutionally? Did we think about how many examples are there in Africa of states that have gone through revolutions that have ever come back? Look at our neighbors, Somalia. Look at Libya. Look at other states, even beyond Africa, Iraq, Iran, that have gone through popular uprising. How long does it take to rebuild? We really play around the peace and the peaceful transition of power that we have enjoyed. Nobody among us have survived. The worst we went was 2007, but that was, if you compare that with other revolutions, the revolutions that we have seen and the evolution that we desire, it's worth to say that 90% of us cannot survive 1 month in a foreign country, because then you realize your degrees cannot be recognized. You don't have capital to start a business. You are looked at as a foreigner. People in East Africa don't like us that much. Then this country is our home. Without this country, and that's right, what Raila saw that we didn't. Without our flag flying high, our options are so limited. Okay. So that is what Raila saw. And when you say there is a thin line between sabotage and sacrifice, I see sacrifice in Raila. And that's why he was Baba. He could see not what is popular, what we need. He could see not what we want, but what is needed for this country to remain as a republic.
Okay. And Mwale, you put it in one sentence. You said that if you don't sacrifice for the country itself becomes a sacrifice.
Yes.
When Raila was alive, this was a mixed reaction on how he reacted to the 2024 Mandamano by the Gen Zs. In fact, most of the Gen Zs, even Bruce has said that he needed to reconcile with the young people, because at the time when they were doing exactly what he's been known to do, he stopped it and said that this is the time when now we need reconciliation because the country was heading in the wrong direction. How then do you balance those two? And why didn't he receive his flowers when he was alive? And is it any different now? Or is it because now the legacy lives on, so people speak from the other side of the mouth?
I think Raila Amolo Odinga as a person is one person that you really need to understand. And that is what we Kenyans are getting it different. You know, Raila first was the father of democracy, this republic. And democracy means that we can agree to disagree. And even when we disagree, we still remember that we are Kenyans as a people. It is not right to say that Raila Odinga came on board during the Maandamano period to stop the Maandamano. In fact, my entire life, I have known Raila Amolo Odinga as the true inspiration for me as a young person to go to the streets and demand what is actually my right. In the early years, immediately after Kenya gained independence, Raila Amolo Odinga was amongst the activists who went to the streets and called out the late President Moi to introduce better leadership into this country. When the cost of living was so high in Kenya, and Kenyans could not afford a living, Kenyans could not get their basic rights, Raila Amolo Odinga called out on Kenyans to come out and demonstrate, picket, so that we can call the government to action. Even when we thought, or when it was said that election malpractices were done in this country, elections were allegedly rigged, Raila Amolo Odinga called upon the Kenyans to peacefully demonstrate so that the entire world can know, and also called upon this country to have a new genesis on matters concerning electoral justice. So when the Gen Zs went to the streets to demonstrate, I believe that Raila Amolo Odinga supported the demonstrations. There is no point that Raila Amolo Odinga criticized or condemned the Gen Zs, even when President when President Ruto himself called the demonstrators criminals. The Right Honorable, the late Raila Amolo Odinga, did not criminalize the Gen Zs. He remained quiet and silent until when the president decided to act. And when the president realized that it was wrong to force the finance bill upon the people, that is when Raila Amolo Odinga decided to have with President William Ruto, and then that culminated into the broad-based. But let us not be too quick to forget that in the utterances of the former Prime Minister, he did not condemn the people from participating in demonstrations. I believe if Raila was alive today, and if any oppressive regime took over, or the government passed any laws that would jeopardize the freedoms of the people, Raila Amolo Odinga would call upon the Kenyans to go to the streets and demonstrate, because that is the only power that the Constitution gives us. And let's not speak about as if it is wrong for the people to go to the streets. I would go to the streets tomorrow. I would go to the streets today if it meant that I would give a better future for my children. Okay. And we must never forget that Raila Amolo Odinga taught us this. And remember that Raila Odinga was the party leader of ODM. And ODM stands for Orange Democratic Movement. Since the KANU regime, we did not experience a party that stood for ideals until Raila Odinga formed ODM. And those people in government, let me be precise and say that the ruling regime must never ever think that the people will always remain silent because we are being told that demonstrations would lead to anarchy, demonstrations would lead to chaos, demonstrations would maybe lead to a military regime. Of course, it is a risk that we may face, but that does not mean that the government now takes advantage of the calm nature of the people, instills fear to the people, and then passes some legislations that are very oppressive, decides to overtax the people, decides to deny us our basic rights, only because we should fear that the country could plunge into chaos. We have had leaders that have sacrificed for this country. We have had other leaders like Raila Amolo Odinga who would want to see a country that is progressive, a country that is peaceful. But Trevor, when does peace begin? I think peace begins in our minds, not in the streets. We could be having very calm streets. We could be having very good roads outside there. But provided the average Kenyan, the Wanjiku, does not have peace of mind, cannot fend for their families, cannot afford medication, cannot afford education, then it means that we do not have peace in this country. So let us remind the leaders in this country, I being one of them, that if we do not do the right thing, if we do not live up to the promises that we made to the people will go back to the streets and they will demonstrate until those that are in charge can listen to them.
Okay, and we'll talk about what is the right thing to do now because you've mentioned it. But for now, to take a quick commercial break, I'll come back with you, Bruce, because you also mentioned this issue of reconciliation with young people and the rest of the panelists as well. Let's take that quick break. We're back with much more in just a bit. At Trevor Mbidi at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Citizen Daybreak. That's how you can reach us. We're talking about the future after Raila and what else needs to be done by the young people because now the mantle has been passed to them. All right, see you in a short while.